Hello everybody and welcome to this week's PolyWorld development log. This week I've been working on terrain generation and in particular the chunking process that loads areas of terrain in and out of the scene as you move around. This allows us to massively increase the effective size of the world without hitting performance. If we take the camera up high and turn off the fog effect, we can see all of the terrain below us, and if we move the camera forward we can see the chunks gradually popping into the scene as they're loaded and then being pruned as we move backwards. The popping effect is normally partly obscured by the fog and by the camera not normally being this high, but in future we can fade the chunks in and out a bit to make it look more natural. So each chunk is 64 by 64 quads and we aim to keep 10 chunks loaded in each direction from the camera, which gives us a maximum visible scene of 441 chunks or 3.6 million triangles. Seems a bit high and we'll probably look at optimizing it next week. The entire explorable world is 500 chunks on each side. Now we can turn up the camera speed and stress test the chunk generation process by seeing whether or not we can catch up with the edge of the world as it loads it. The player wouldn't normally move this fast, but it's good for our purposes and it looks pretty good. The chunk generation process is multi-threaded, so as the player moves around we put chunk requests on an input queue. We then have some generator threads which generate the chunk geometry and add it to an output queue. And since the geometry has to be added to the scene on the render thread, we get the render thread to check for any newly generated chunks and then add them to the scene after a certain number of frames. 3 generator threads seem to be about enough for now, and they reduce the time to generate the initial 441 chunks from 12 seconds to about 3 seconds. As we want to make terrain generation more complex in future, this seems like a good system, but it will probably need some proper optimization later on. Now you can start to see the terrain chunks popping into view in the distance, and there's the edge of the world. Next week I'll be improving the terrain generation algorithm further and starting to work on areas of water. Thank you very much for watching, have a good day and see you next time.